9. This is the introductory lesson then to your SATs or Key Stage 3 exam that you will take at the end of this year. This is a two-part test. It comes in two different sections, and we call those sections the reading section, highlighted in green on the screen, and the writing section, highlighted in blue on the screen. Both of these sections test the basic skills in English, that is reading skills, as well as writing skills. By reading skills, I mean reading a sheet of paper or a set of information and answering questions on it. By writing skills, I mean responding to a task or a question, we're being assessed for things like punctuation, handwriting, sentence structure, paragraphing, and how you're writing to audience. As I said then, two different tests that will be set on two different days. You will learn the days, or be told the dates for those exams in later time, okay, and they will be based in the hall. The first test you've done at Uplands then, that is in the hall and sat independently, that is on your own at a desk, away from other people, answering these two sections. Today then, we're going to focus primarily on section A, reading. You will notice there are 4 different questions. These are more or less in order of difficulty. Question 1, or A1, will ask you to find the facts. Okay, it will ask you to locate facts in a piece of writing. It is A1 that we're going to focus on today. A2, that is question 2 in your test paper, will ask you to analyze evidence. So looking for how a character feels based on a piece of writing. You've done this many times before. You did it with tribes in year 7. You'll have done it with boy in striped pajamas in year 8. And we also looked at it in Dracula, I think it was at the beginning of year 9. So question A2, you have a lot of experience with. Question A3 will focus on evidence of purpose. How persuasive is a piece of writing will be A3. And you'll need to locate different pieces of evidence to back up the different persuasive features you think are being used. You've done a lot of work on persuasive writing over the last couple of years. The healthy eating speech in year 8 would be an example of that. And the work from last term would be an example of that, where we looked at persuasive writing leaflets. And you also did a bit of persuasive writing when you looked at your speeches in year 7, where you had to convince people how to change the world, I believe it was. A4, so question 4 on the reading paper, will ask you to summarize a pair of texts. You have to edit down a pair of texts and summarize or give 2 to 3 different opinions about a pair of texts. No quotes needed for number 4. Each one of these questions you'll be taught in lessons. Each one of these questions will be linked to the booklet that you've now downloaded from the website, either Show My Homework or Assignments, or indeed the booklet you are currently using in lessons when we return to school. This is then a basic reading test that shows you understand a piece of writing and can use quotes. This will prepare you for GCSE because the questions on the reading paper are very, very similar to the ones you'll be sat or set in year 11 as part of your English language GCSE. This then will need revising for. You'll need to look back over the booklet to learn how to answer each question, and we'll be doing practice questions in lesson to make sure that you are to the standard you want to be to get into the set you want. What we do is take your assessments you've done in lesson over the course of this year and your SATs result or your exam result. We look at both and see what set will be best for you as you go into your GCSE year in year 10, where you actually start the GCSE course in full. The writing, that is the blue section, we've already done a lot of work on. You've done how to write newspaper, how to write a letter, how to write a speech. So you have already covered the transactional writing or the writing half of the paper in previous terms and previous years. I ask at this point then, And if you're watching this later after the lesson, I would now pause the video. Are there any questions? Think what questions you might have linked to the exam, and please write those down or ask your teacher. If you're currently in the live lesson, you would write them in the chat column. I'm just going to pause for 10 seconds and I will answer in full sentences any questions that arise. Okay, no questions so far. Thank you very much. Today then, we're going to focus on question 1, the first question you'd be set in the exam, the first one as you open your paper that you would see first. We call this then the finding the facts question. It is worth 3 marks for 3 separate answers. An example of this exam is on the left-hand side. You can find that on the left-hand side of the screen. For example, it reads, read the online article by Dexter Roberts and Aaron Bernstein from a separate resource material. And then it says A1, A, B, C. Each answer is worth 1 mark and asks you a particular question you have to respond. For example, A1A reads, how much were workers charged per month for food and lodgings? You'd then find that information and you'd write it down on the line provided. That would give you 1 mark if it was correct. A1B reads, how much did Lou clear in his first month working at the factory? You'd read through the article you were given and you'd locate the fact you need and you write it down in the box. Same for A1C. How many workers were there at Chun C? You can see it's worth 1 mark. So again, 1 answer for that as well. Okay, that would be a 3 mark question, and I'd hope you would get 3 out of 3 after finding the correct facts. In the rest of this PowerPoint then, and the rest of this presentation, we're going to look at some other examples of question 1, but they are in order of difficulty. They are in order of difficulty. What I would like you to do is write your answers and your notes on your A4 paper, or indeed, if you're working at home, okay, on a Word document. Okay, so please respond to each of these. I will ask you either in lesson or indeed during this live lesson what your responses were to check you have the right facts for the question being set. Here's then, before we see some examples, how you deal with question 1, how you would successfully get all 3 marks. First of all, you read the question. You read it slowly, you read it carefully to make sure you understand what you are being asked. 2, you read the text through carefully. You read through the article, the piece of writing you were given, and you read through what it is about and something about the characters in it. 3, you circle the information you think is relevant. So if the question asks you, how much does Roger get paid? You simply find the bit of the article that tells you that information and you circle it. You then reread the question, just checking you understand what you're being asked. And then finally, you write down your answer in the box provided. So the last thing you do is write your answer down. To do all of these steps, you have about 5 minutes to provide all 3 pieces of information. Here then is our first example. I will now pause to let you read through the text. This is a simple text. I will now show 3 questions based on this text, Please read the questions through carefully. Okay, you should now be ready to answer each of the three questions. 1A, 1B, 1C, to a maximum of 3 marks. Question 1A. How does a police officer get paid? Sorry, how much does a police officer get paid for as a starting salary? You'd locate that answer in the text itself. You'd look back at the question to make sure your answer fits the question set, and then you'd write down your answer. I will now pause for 10 seconds to let you do that. If you're doing it in the lesson, you would do it on paper. If you're doing it while we do our live lesson, you would do it on your Word document. And please label your answer 1A. Have your answer then ready. I'm going to ask one person currently online in this live lesson to respond with their response, and I'll name the person I would like to respond. Can Noah, please? Noah, could you respond with the correct answer to 1A in the chat? Noah has written in the chat 20,000. 20,000 is the answer Noah has given. He has written 20000. He would not get a mark for that answer. Noah, if you look at the text itself, you'll notice a very important part of your answer is missing. Could you now correct what you think might be wrong? Look back at the question. Almost, almost. Noah has added a comma after the 20 and the 3 zeros. I'll read the question to you at thank you. Another student, Esther, has now added a pound sign. The question was, how much does a police officer get paid for starting salary? So you would need a denomination of the finances involved there, in this case, pounds. So you would need the pound sign before the 20,000. In the test then, although Noah clearly understands the text, he would not get a mark. If he did add the pound sign, he would have got a mark for that question. Thank you for the 3 students who responded, helping each other out. Kian, could you now look at question 1B? Name one quality the police force are looking for, and could you give your answer in the chat, please? If you're working from home, if you were in the lesson, you would write your answer on your paper. Kian, what do you believe the answer to 1B to be? Kian has written in the chat, young, enthusiastic, intelligent. Unfortunately, once more, that would not get a mark. That would not get a response. Kian, look back at the question set. Name one quality the police force are looking for. Kian, could you now change your answer to make sure that you would get a mark? Kian has put O in the chat. Kian, what do you believe the right answer to be? Kian has now changed his answer to enthusiastic. He has given one quality the police force are looking for, and now would gain a mark. Thank you, Kian. Okay, Harley, 1C. What do you have to do to join? Please write your answer in the chat. If you're working from home, write it on your paper. Or if you're working in lesson, please write it on your paper. Harley has written in the chat, sign up. She would get a mark for that. As indeed, what do you have to do to join? Sign up is the only answer you can give to that. If we take all those original answers, that would now be a mark of 1 out of 3. But both Noah and Kian were able to adapt their answer to change it slightly to make sure they did gain the marks from question 1A and 1B. Can I highlight to you after that mini exercise to read the question carefully and make sure your answer responds to the exact question set? Okay, that was the basic response. That was the basic text. We're now going to get a little harder, but I am now going to show you, give you a bit more thinking time to do it. As before, I'm going to ask 3 people for their responses, and I'll ask them to reply in the chat, and then read their responses for this recording, and then tell them whether they would get the mark right or not. The correct answers for that first exercise are now on the board. Okay, take a look closely at this slightly more difficult text, lots more information, and slightly harder words. This is equivalent to a year 7 text. It's a little bit harder than the last one. I will now pause for about 20 seconds or so to let you read that. Thank you. Okay, that's given you a chance to look in a bit more detail about that at that text. There are certainly harder words here that we need to consider. Based on the last question then, the last text you looked at, you may well be able to guess what the questions are going to be. You would expect it's going to be asking you something about coal miners. You would expect it's probably going to ask you something about the facts being used in this article. And you're going to be asked for only a 1-word answer, okay, for each one. Let's now take a look at question 1. Name 1 work-related illness. 1B, what is the number you must ring? And 1C, how much compensation would you get? Okay, I'm now going to go back to the text, take a look clearly at those questions. Name 1A, name 1 work-related illness. 1A, name 1 work-related illness. Kai, could you please give 1 work-related illness? Kai has not responded. Joe, could you give one work-related illness? Kai has now responded in the text. He has responded with one work-related illness is industrial deafness. Do we think that would get a mark? I'm now going to put in the chat. Harley is saying a yes to that. Maury is also saying yes to that. It implies then that many people think that the answer would be yes. I'm now going to place a little question to gauge the rest of the group. I should see 11 responses in total. The question was, would Kai's answer get a mark? Question mark. I'm going to just put a yes or no. It implies there that there might be some further thought to do. And I'm placing that question in the chat column. Could you please submit which one you think is right so I get a sense of how many people are writing it? Could you click yes if you think Kai's answer of industrial deafness would count as an illness? Or whether you think no. 7 people have responded with yes, 100%. The answer yes is the correct answer. In the past, some people have said no because deafness is not an illness. But because we're told from this text that it is a work-related illness, the answer is correct. Yes, industrial deafness does count as a work-related illness. Question 1b. What is the number you must ring? Be careful on this one. It is asking for a long number, so you'll need to make sure you have exactly the correct number for 1b. 1b then. What is the number you must ring? Cameron has responded with 000 space 000 space 0000. Harley has responded the same. Both answers are correct and both would get 1 mark. 1c. How much compensation would you get? This question's a little harder. You'd have to know what compensation is in order to answer it. But if you look at the text, you should locate that information reasonably easily. I'll now go back to the text. So how much compensation would you get? Harley has responded with £1,000. That would not be correct. That would be an incorrect answer. Cameron has responded with thousands of pounds. He's put a pound sign, he's put 1000 with an S next to it. Harley would not get the mark, Cameron would get the mark. The text says you could be entitled to thousands in compensation, implying more than 1,000. So in this case, Cameron would be correct. Harley, unfortunately, would not get the mark. From those answers then, I can deduce that most of you would have got 3 out of 3, with 1 or 2 people just getting 2 out of 3. That was the second most difficult text I'll give you. And the correct answers are currently now on the board. Okay, there were many answers for 1A, name one work-related illness. There are some selected there, bronchitis, emphysema, asbestosis, but industrial deafness would also be there. You would choose one of these answers as it asks for one work-related illness. Correctly, people wrote down the correct phone number and the right number of digits, and Cameron answered number 1C correctly by saying there is thousands you could gain in compensation. Here then is the hardest text I'll give you for today. Please once again read through this text. The questions will be appearing on the right-hand side shortly. As you read the last column of that text, you'll now realize this is a Year 9 text. This is the most difficult one I'm going to give you, and the most like the exam you will do. I am now placing the 3 questions I'm asking you to the right-hand side. Question 1A, what are the health benefits of eating chocolate? Question 1B, what do you gain from sunshine? Question 1C, what illness do fruit and veg cause? On your paper or on your Word document, please write down your answers to a maximum of 3 marks. In the exam, you would have 5 minutes to do it. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to respond here. Please write down on your Word document or on your paper your answers, and double check you are actually answering the question set to make sure you get all 3 marks. You have 2 minutes remaining. Your time is now up. This is the year 9 text, the hardest text of the 3 we have studied today. If you were to get all 3 answers correct, that would be your grade 9. If you were to answer 2 of the 3, that would be your grade 5. If you got 1 of the 3, that would be your grade 3. Half marks is then your grade 5 or pass mark for any question you're set in this exam. Clementine, could you please tell me what are the health benefits of eating chocolate? It is a 1 mark question. You will need to write 1 mark, just a 2-word answer as a response. What are the health benefits of eating chocolate? Whilst nothing, says Clementine, Clementine has responded in the chat with the word nothing. Cameron has responded with lowers blood pressure and spring cleans arteries. Clementine, I'm afraid you would not get a mark for your answer. That is not the information the article gives, so you would not get a mark for your response. Cameron has written lowers blood pressure and spring cleans arteries. He has given 2 responses. The question said, what are the health benefits of eating chocolate? It does not say you need to write 1 answer, so Cameron would be correct and get 1 mark for his response. Amy, could you respond to question 1b? What do you gain from sunshine? Amy, if you are unable to respond or locate the information, Cameron has responded with vitamin D being his response. Indeed, in the middle, at the bottom of the middle column, it does indeed say, if only we'd allowed ourselves to absorb a little vitamin D from the sun. So Cameron, correctly, you would get a mark for vitamin D for that response. Looking at the evidence so far then, Cameron would now be on course to get a grade 5 from this question, as he's currently answered 2 of the possible 3 questions correctly. Question 1c, and may I politely request Cameron does not write it in the chat on this occasion. Question 1c, what illness do fruit and veg cause? Harley has written down cancer as her response. I would ask Harley to look closely at the article itself. She is, I think, missing one word to that answer. You might find it mentions a particular kind of cancer in this case. Harley, could you add a word, please, to your response to be 100% confident you would get the mark? You would find the word cancer in the middle. Harley has now added to her response. Her original answer was cancer. She's now added the word gullet to that response. Um, as has Esther, both of which now have correctly named the illness that fruit and veg are deemed to cause according to this article that you see in front of you. The correct responses to each question are now displayed on the board for you to check your answers and ensure you got 3 out of 3. Thank you very much then for listening to this guide to question 1 of your reading paper exam, your reading paper year 9 exam. I'll now leap back through the PowerPoint. Today we are focused then on question A1, the find the facts question. Okay, that is worth on the actual exam paper 5 marks in total. So you'd be asked for 5 facts rather than the 3 we've studied today. Thank you very much for listening. I appreciate your efforts. Good luck with your revision, and our next lesson will be focusing on question 2 on the exam paper.